God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Before I begin the agenda, I would like to first welcome a number of new people. First, we have a new member of the board, Joe Corbett. Thank you for taking a step forward, and we're welcoming you and glad you're aboard. I also want to welcome our two returning members who have been here with long tenure, Bruce with the longest tenure on the board. So Harvey and Bruce, thank you and welcome back.
Thank you.
And I also want to welcome our new first selectman, Rob Smith. Thank you.
Thank you.
And with that, with a new election and a new season and a new year, we have to elect our officers. So what I'd like to do is solicit some nominations, first for chair and then for the election of secretary.
Mr. Chairman, it's my pleasure to nominate Bill DeCristofaro for another term as our chairman.
I'll second that.
Second, okay. Are there any other nominations for chair?
Make a motion, nominations to be closed?
Second.
So moved, okay. All in favor for me nominated as chair, is that it?
No, closing.
Closing first.
Oh, okay, I now close the nominations. Who would like to make a motion to close it? You just said make a motion to close it. Excuse me.
Second.
Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Okay, now, let's move forward
I think we're
and
gonna
say.
change our mind here.
Now, that was the vote on closing nominations, now you.
Now I'm gonna say, yes, I have a nomination for chair.
Yes.
Who's gonna resign as soon as he's done with it?
That's tough, but
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, motion carries. Now may I request a nomination for the role of secretary?
I nominate Bruce Dutch for Secretary of the Board of Finance.
Very good. Any second?
Second.
Second? Okay. Anyone else want to be nominated? Okay,
I move nominations be closed.
okay. Second?
I'll second that.
All right. Vote on nominations being closed. All in favor?
Aye.
Okay. Vote on Mr. Dutch being our new secretary?
Aye.
Aye. Okay. We
Thank
have
you.
a new secretary. Welcome aboard. Thank you. Okay.
That'll teach you, Bruce.
Check that and let's go.
All right, good. Now we can move forward. With that, we now have our guest and audience comments. So for those of you in attendance, and it's great to see all the faces tonight, I want to welcome anyone that wants to speak before our meeting. We'll also have an opportunity to speak at the end of the meeting. So anyone from the audience that's not on the agenda that would like to speak, we'll open up to questions or comments or whatever. Is there anyone? Yes, Mr. Rizzo.
You state your name, or I think I know everybody except Mr. Corbett, Marty Ritzak. I think you might be addressing my issue that I'd like to talk about under new business 12B, but I'm not sure. The Board of Education in October voted to move forward a proposal that has been on, I believe, the town's radar, let's say, the building of a track at the high school. When the school was first being built in 1991, track and tennis courts existed. But for whatever reason, in 1994, when the school was completed and opened, they did not make it to the actual being built. So it's been 25 years now, so it's, I think, time to look at that. I'll be more than happy to come back at any time, and if there's any committee or any work that needs to be done, I'm the athletic director up there at the high school, but it's really time for a track. I believe the board's proposal, I don't know what sits before you, and if there's nothing that sits before you, then we need to dig it up and bring it forward, because I know they talked about an athletic project, upgrade, which included a track, but also redoing the soccer field, which the track would be around. The soccer field is in terrible shape. It needs drainage, it needs irrigation, and there was also discussion on July 9th of this past year with several people who walked the site about putting in a concession stand, bathrooms, and bleachers. basically making it what it should have been in the very first place. So that's a project that I support and a lot of people I know support. And so we want to see it move to whatever you're going to do. I'm sure there are other capital improvement projects that are probably going to be on your agenda and perhaps in May, whether you're going to bundle them all together or not, but certainly the track and the athletic upgrades need to be there, and look forward to supporting you any way I can. And we have a coach here who might want to say something as well.
My name is Dave Kraszewski. I'm the high school cross-country coach. Just wanted to talk briefly just about our program and how they've grown. Our cross-country program is pretty large, and I believe the indoor and outdoor track teams are the largest in the school at this point. And I'm certain that we are the only school in the shoreline that does not have a track. And I know that we are one of possibly still the only team in Connecticut that does not have a track. The only high school that does not have a track. Again, if there are schools that do not have one, I certainly do not know of them, and I basically know of every high school in Connecticut. And I think that with the success that both the cross-country teams and the track teams have had, I would really be in favor of, obviously, having a track to help enhance the programs even more.
Very good. Thank you very much for your comments. I generally don't try to address them directly, but I do want to make sure we could give you the right direction of what's actually happening. There's no formal proposal that's been brought forward to us. I mean, it's sort of on the capital plan, but kind of rolling. However, the concerns you bring forward are not unlike a number of other capital concerns that this town has to make it a better place. And as a result, we've been doing a lot of work with a subcommittee developing a capital improvement plan. We just presented it to the Financial Needs Roundtable in October, and I spoke with our new first selectman on Friday, explaining to him that it's important to carry this forward, and we're ready to brief that group, and I believe you have a date set for that, correct? So
Potential dates.
the idea of this capital improvement plan is to take all of these good ideas, put them in together, and then kind of come up with a list of which ones can we do now, which ones need to be delayed, and how do we approach financing all of those. So there's a process we're developing, and that certainly will be addressed in that process.
Okay. I'm sure the other needs are important, but this has existed now for almost 30 years, and it was once already approved by the town in 1989 after several referendums. If you have not lived in this town long enough, perhaps you don't know the history, but it was quite an ordeal to get the school project passed, and when it finally passed, it included tennis courts and a track. So it's already been approved once, so I would certainly hope that as this package goes forward, it does include the athletic upgrades, is basically how it came out of the Board of Education. So if there's anything that I need to do or any of us need to do to go to the Board of Education or whatever, go to the Board of Selectmen on Wednesday at 7 o'clock, which I intend to do, to make sure that everybody's aware that we want this project in some proposal moving forward.
What are the dates for the Financial Need Roundtable? Do we have that?
There was two tentative dates set. The Board of Selectmen has to appoint the committee, but the potential dates, I believe, were December, I want to say 12th and 16th, but we can, if you give me a call tomorrow, I can tell you the two dates.
Just an email, sure.
And that would be the first great place to go, because making your case there will be a real start. Do you want to comment on that?
But in line with the policy, what we need first is a capital needs request form that then moves up through the chain of command at the Board of Ed, then ends up with the finance director, and then gets shipped to the Financial Needs Roundtable.
That's correct.
So my suggestion is, don't delay. See Cindy and get the form. Have her help you fill it out.
Can I stop you? That form has to come from the superintendent of
Yeah,
schools
I mean,
and the Board of
that-
Education,
Oh,
not
then
directly to
go
me.
through your chain of command to get the proper paperwork
Well,
in line.
there's-
Otherwise, we can't do anything.
I totally understand. And talking, I don't know if Ron Turner comes into this conversation at all,
Yes.
the role that he plays in this town, but I certainly spoke to him today. There's been an architect involved. There is a plan that has been put together with cost estimates, if that's what we're kind of talking about here a little bit. So I'll go talk to the superintendent, I'll go talk to Ron Turner, I'll talk to anybody we have to. The plan, I think, exists. It just needs to have a little bit of, inertia behind it to get it moving. And we, the group, I mean, there's only 2 of us here, but we met with 50 people last Thursday night, and so there's a fairly significant number of people that want to see this move forward. And we just respectfully waited until the new boards were seated before we came and let you know how we feel.
And our personal goal in establishing this policy and establishing this program is to hear out all of the legitimate projects. So I want you to go away knowing that everyone is seriously listening. We just want to make sure it flows up in the proper process. Because, and it's important to understand, the finance board, when it comes to looking at financing these projects, has to determine, well, do we have the money right now? Will we request the Board of Ed to put reserves aside and we'll authorize that? There's a number of ways of doing this, and we have to figure that part out, and it has to be kind of put in with all the other ones that we have, and there are a lot of other capital projects. Not to say that this isn't valid and we don't want to support it, but we came with the process so that everybody can have their input out there. So as passionate as you feel about that, we encourage you to be part of that. And basically, that means go through the Board of Ed, participate with that. It's a public meeting, so participate in that financial needs roundtable. What did we end up calling that committee, though? We changed the name of that.
Well, it's still financial needs roundtable
Okay.
till the Board of
And that's through the
Selectmen.
Board of Education, because information
It's
came
through the
out
Board of
from Cindy
Selectmen.
today. Maybe, is that the Board of Ed one?
The way the process works is that every board, commissioner, department is going to make requests. So then those will all funnel through the superintendent's office, they'll funnel through the selectman's office, and then the financial needs roundtable, based on the policy that was developed by the board, will rank and prioritize the projects and then make a recommendation to the 3 boards on these projects. And then it's up to the Board of Finance to look at them all and determine, as the chairman said, how they all can be accomplished.
Understand. All right,
So that's that. It's formalizing the
They'll
process
get
a
looked
little
at
more.
this year,
Yeah, absolutely.
but how we do it and what the timeline
That's
is.
the big meeting, sometime in December, and I'll find out from you tomorrow.
Right, and I can keep you apprised as the process moves forward
Yeah.
with the request.
Be very good. All right. We're gonna leave now.
Do you have
I'm
any?
sorry, I just have a quick question. So it's my understanding that at the last board meeting, maybe the one before, they approved some sort of, they were talking about all this stuff,
Right.
right? So,
Right.
but I don't know, I haven't read any of the minutes. What did,
Well, we've
yeah,
been talking about
I-
within the school system, I mean,
Yeah.
this track concept for a long time.
Exactly.
And then it kind of surfaced that in the town side of the budget and capital improvements, this has existed for this year. This year coming up, you're
Okay.
budgeting for is 2021, I guess.
Right.
And that's where it sits. Now, apparently, this track idea has existed for 10 or 15 years, and it just keeps getting bumped.
exactly.
Because nobody's really had a whole lot to say about it. Well, I think now you're gonna see people, now that we have a track team,
Right.
our track team is the largest
Yep.
largest program in the high school, and we don't have a track.
But what did the Board of Ed do at the last meeting?
At the last meeting, I mean, it was just very quick.
Informational
I mean,
stuff,
the
or-
superintendent made a recommendation or a motion or however it was
Okay.
done, and everybody supported the fact that they move along
Okay.
at an athletic project that
Okay.
included the track and redoing the soccer field with the other
The whole thing.
amenities.
Okay.
And so, I guess my big question or concern is they got moved forward, and I want to make sure that you're aware of it, but it's clear while you may be the people that will decide on it, we have to go through another process, and we will certainly be there for that.
The Board of
process.
Education in this
Yeah.
instance will create a budget that will most likely include that, and then it'll come to us when we do our budget planning in the first part of the year.
All right.
So ideally, they'll figure out a way to make it work and look
Right.
at that.
Anything else? I appreciate you listening.
Thank you for taking the initiative, and thank you for joining us tonight. It's a lot.
Stay?
Okay, good. Are there any other members of the audience who would like to ask questions or comments? All right, very good.
Should we ask the fire department to go, so they don't have to stand for the whole meeting? Or?
We could make a change on our agenda. Would you like to do that? So we have a copy of the agenda here. Would anyone like to make a motion to change some of the stuff on the agenda to coincide with some of our guests this evening?
I move to bring Item 12E, after guest and audience comments.
Do I have a second?
Second.
Discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Okay, so let's go to item 12E, please.
See the last item in your packet? I didn't give them the 70-odd pages.
All right, great. Who would like to do a quick intro for the members of our board on this? Would we like our guest to do it, or do you want to do it as a lead? Who wants to do the quick overview on this and then invite them
think
to
they
speak?
should.
Would you like to do the speech on that, the talk on that? Please do.
My name's John Sarnick, I'm the career captain for the East Haddam Fire Department. Basically what we're looking to do is improve our current apparatus through the FEMA Assistance Firefighters Grant. Our current ladder truck is 42 years old. It's outside of the window of usability per the National Fire Protection Agency. They say that at 20 years a fire apparatus should be replaced. Ours is obviously over double that lifespan. The grant currently is slated to be released next week.
December 2nd.
December 2nd. So within a couple weeks is when the grant's gonna come up. So what I included, or actually you didn't, you gave them the short part, Cindy, the
I didn't give you,
page AFT
I
one.
emailed you the 70 pages, but I printed you 3.
Okay, so what I provided Cindy to get out to your board was the last year's information on this grant project. Lieutenant Kolozinski went to a seminar last week, and generally what they're saying is that nothing's changing for this year. So the information that Cindy emailed you should be current to what's released on December 2nd for the grant itself. Basically what it comes down to is for our population, it's a minimum 5% match for the grant request. We're looking at somewhere in the range of between $800,000 and $1 million to replace this truck. We'd like to see 10% just because it does improve our odds. So we're looking for a maximum of $100,000 match on the grant to be able to secure this. At the current time, we've worked with 2 different vendors at this point to try to get ballpark pricing. And the 2 prices we've got, the high and the low, were $880 for the truck to $1.2 million for the truck. We'd like to work with the lower vendor and actually have it come fully equipped. So that's why we're leaning more towards that higher number of $1 million, which is, it should be noted in this grant program, is the maximum vehicle funding that FEMA will award, is the $1 million, minus the $100,000 grant match. And that would actually deliver the truck fully stocked, all brand new hose on it. We're looking at new vehicle extrication equipment, things like that to come on the truck, because this will be a multi-function truck. Our current ladder truck only has ladder capabilities, that's it. This new truck would come with a pump, it would come with a water tank, vehicle extrication equipment, so we could actually use it. It's referred to as a quint because it has, they market it as having 5 purposes. So it would benefit us, especially during daytime hours when we are limited on staffing. We're only taking 1 truck instead of trying to take 2 or 3 with 2 people. So it would benefit us in that way. Another point that we brought up with discussing with Cindy is that it wouldn't necessarily replace 2 trucks, but we have the truck in, what is it, 24, 25, 23, 24, coming up. We have an engine that's due for replacement. I believe we have $650,000 allocated in capital for that truck. And what we could do with this grant is, instead of fully replacing that truck, we could refurbish that truck, which per NFPA will get us an extra 15 years on the life of that aging apparatus, which is past its 20-year life expectancy at this point now anyway. So that'll gain us an extra 15 years per the standards on that truck. So we wouldn't necessarily be merging 2 trucks into one, but we would be saving about half of what's allocated in that capital expenditure plan by doing if we were to and then refurbish that truck instead of purchasing.
Well, I want to be clear on what I think I just heard you say.
Sure.
So we already have, and Cindy, help me check this. You can sit down if you like or relax. If you, right now, we have money budgeted for that refurb coming up, about 600?
Replacement, for replacement.
Replacement, okay.
Right.
And that's, how much do we have?
About a $500,000, I don't have my budget book with me, but it's about $500,000.
Okay,
And we're reserving for that as well.
right, so we've had that money kind of put aside for this purpose. In doing this exercise, by making this change, we're going to get a brand-new truck, take a, what should we say, 100,000 off of that 500,000, and that'll leave 400, and that 400 will be enough for us to do the refurb of that vehicle?
The refurbishment, Lou, you'd be better on this. What do you figure,
So-
250?
I would say, again, depending on how in-depth you wanted to go with the refurbishment, you can just, have a pump rebuilt, motor rebuilt, and call it a day. You can have pump rebuilt, electrical redone, motor redone, any body work that has to be done. So it could be, I would say between $200,000 and $300,000.
Okay, so again,
To do it properly.
so let's use the higher number, just under worst-case scenario. We have 5 now,
We're planning on 5.
we're planning on 5, we're budgeting on
Wait.
5 right now.
Not to put you on the spot, but where do we stand on accumulating that 500,000? We got only 100, or we got?
We
400?
have more than 100, because you put in 76,000 this year, you're targeting for 100,000 next year. But there are other vehicles and other apparatus planned for that. Actually, Joe, you have a budget book. Do you mind if I take your budget book?
Of course.
I almost brought mine with me and I didn't. Thank you.
See, you used it already.
There you go. Gotta put some points on the board early.
So for the fire department reserves, at the end of 2019, we had approximately $325,000. And we're gonna put in about $80,000 this year. And then as you go out on the capital plan, you have, we have a utility 15 for replacement in 21, 22, and in 23, 24, actually 650 budgeted for engine 215. So
That's this vehicle that we're replacing.
The
That's the
grant
one
would
where
be
you-
for the ladder
have it.
truck, and that truck has never been included in capital.
Okay.
Because of and it was, when discussions had taken place previously, because of the sheer cost of what that style apparatus costs, we had never included it in capital. The truck that we currently have was donated to us 9 years ago.
Yeah, it's, we're the third department to own this truck, just to put that in perspective.
So we received it as a donation. There was no purchase from the town for this truck. However, there's people who would make the argument that a town this size doesn't necessarily need a ladder truck. However, in the past 72 hours, it's been utilized 3 times. And the write-up that I did real quick, the background and overview on it, I went through a multitude of things that make this truck advantageous. And also why the current one really needs to be replaced.
one of the things that we had discussed, we met on this, is, and in light of our capital policy, is we're gonna really need to look at, if they get the grant, what their capital looks like, and if they don't. And then what their future needs will be, and to update that. To remind you, they're asking authorization to apply for the grant in no way commits the town until you see what the grant is, because they may say it's $1 million, but 30% match. So that will give you that opportunity, even when the award is made, to look at what the match is, and we can do a greater analysis of the reserve fund, mapping out any changes, and report that to you. So when you would have to make any kind of decision to accept, which also goes to town meeting, we would have a much more up-to-date figures for you and projections for you.
I have just one question. So the amount of match that we have on the amount that was submitted to us is different than the one that he suggested. Does that matter? Because we would have to change that later on.
You had 5% on here, so I think we could say change it to 10%. I'll update the form, and you can move forward with it. But this at least gets them out of the gate to see if they can actually garner this $1 million truck, and then you can have the conversation as to what the match is and what their future capital plan looks like.
I'm gonna make a comment, then I'll let the board ask some questions if I may. My perspective, I'm looking at this and I think this is a great opportunity. It's a significant graph for something that we have to embrace. We're gonna have to have some money expended, anyway to keep the fire trucks up to speed, and it's capital that, I don't know, I think it looks real good. I can't see a reason why we wouldn't look forward to doing this, my own personal observation. But I wanna turn it to our board. Harvey, what are your questions or thoughts?
It looks like, although it's rough numbers, we would have already, including the monies that we would set aside going forward, we'd have enough to cover the match, assuming it's $100,000, and still have 250,000 to do the refurbishment that's been spoken of. So it makes sense to me. And we're a little dinky town and there aren't any skyscrapers, but maybe we do need a snazzy ladder truck, so.
Mr. Chairman, may I speak to that real quick?
Sure.
That's quite frequently the comment we get about East Haddam having an aerial device of any sort. Where a truck like this is advantageous to a town like ours is, yes, good speed, yes, Gelston House, yes, those few buildings that we do have that are out of reach of the traditional 24-foot
And then when you've got to be on the downslope and it's 3 stories.
That's one of the things that this is. You mentioned downslope. One of the advantages to the specific manufacturer that we're looking at is their ladder will actually go below grade in 3 directions off the truck. So for rescue situations, we can use it, not just at a fire. The other advantage is chimney fires. People don't put a lot of thought about a ladder truck in a chimney fire, but when there's 1.5 feet, 2 feet of snow on a roof, and we climb up our 24-foot extension ladder, and now we're sliding around on, it's a huge safety factor is where this comes in, more so than just we can get to the top of the church or to the top of to good speed.
Thank you very much. Anything else?
No,
Joe, would you have any questions or any comments?
I would echo both of your positions there. My only question would be, when you do get any type of blowback from the community or whatever, to have that automatic response of this town wouldn't need an apparatus like that. What would the argument be made outside of what you just said? I mean, you're seeing it being used pretty regularly, like you said, 3 times over the last 72 hours. I mean, you're seeing a pretty.
It varies.
Sure.
I mean, it varies. We can realistically, the current ladder truck that we have, it can go weeks or even a month or so without really getting utilized that frequently. The time that we see a lot of use is with our chimney fires. I mean, that is, if I had to put one pertinent reason that we need this truck in town, it's the chimneys. It really is. That's a situation that we're going to use that the most. The advantage to the truck we're looking at is it takes that sole ladder purpose out. This truck we can pull up with minimum staffing and operate as both a ladder company and an engine company with this truck simultaneously, because it has dual capabilities. Whereas currently, we're hoping that we get enough to get multiple apparatus out, and then we run into, if the first truck doesn't position itself appropriately, we can't position the ladder truck to do the job.
Excellent explanation. Thank you. And the equipment itself, the 20-year lifespan average goal, that's for the current equipment that you're looking at as well as the previous.
So the National Fire Protection Agency says that 20 years is a good goal.
Okay.
They don't say that you're mandated to replace it in 20 years, but they say that with the average use and wear and tear on fire apparatus, because they're big trucks that tend to sometimes get driven like race cars because we are going to emergencies. Their feeling is that safety dictates that 20 years is a good time frame to say that these trucks need to be looked at as replacements. There's no legal requirement to say that at 20 years you must get rid of this truck and buy a new one.
Good to know. Thank you.
Bruce?
I support the idea, I like the idea, and we could literally possibly save a fireman's life. I've seen them fight chimney fires, and it's a very dangerous task, so I support it.
Thank you.
Yes, sir. Yeah, I've supported also, but I'm thinking of the taxpayers in town, the people in town who don't know that much about fire engine, how they work and their purpose. Is this a need or a want? It's pretty clear to me it's a need. And with all that you mentioned, I appreciate the chimney fire scenario. And I sure hope it doesn't have to come to my house. But I'm thinking, can everybody drive this truck, or only certain people need to be trained to drive this truck?
Any piece of apparatus we have a qualification process. Anything that would traditionally be within CDL limits, there's a special license that DMV issues for fire apparatus. The generic answer to that is no, everyone can't drive it. There is additional training. We start smaller with the pickup truck style trucks, the brush trucks, things like that, and work their way up to the bigger trucks. This being that it has a pump and an aerial device on it would traditionally be the last truck people would be qualified on, but anyone is able to work their way up to that qualification.
Okay, so middle of the night, the chimney fires usually happen in the middle of the night, in my experience. You have somebody on staff that can drive this truck. It won't sit in the yard because nobody can drive it. That's my concern.
That's a response thing. That's an availability thing, unfortunately. This would be, and our plan would be, and the chief agrees with this as we've been working through this process, is that this would traditionally be the first truck out to any type of fire response. So if we get 5-6 guys that show up and only one of them's qualified on the truck, that guy's gonna be driving the truck.
Mr. Chairman, if I may, Brian All, Chief of the Department. Just to go off what the Captain said, Salem Fire Department, one of our neighbors, they run their ladder first truck out for everything. So complement of extrication tools, water, obviously the ladder as you discussed, is the first thing out. So if they're qualified to drive the truck, we'll put definite emphasis on getting them qualified to drive that truck, so it is the first one out. I just wanted to go back, Captain Sarnik put some things, and I don't know if you had this on your overview, but to go back to what we're currently dealing with, the 1977 Maxim 85-foot ladder, some of the issues that have already been encountered, any adequate safety restraints. Seat belts that are currently in the truck are lap belts only. They do not provide an adequate restraint in the event of an accident. Our rear jump seats, those are the seats behind, it's an open cab. They're not enclosed, could lead to ejection of an occupant in the event of an accident. There's no anti-lock braking system in this vehicle. Lack of any sort of supplemental restraint system, i.e. airbags. Our stabilization outriggers to prevent rollover during use of the aerial device or manual screw type jacks. They're not considered adequate under current standards. The electrical system, we've seen this happen multiple times. It's outdated clearly as it's caught fire on multiple occasions in the firehouse. The truck's 42 years old. It's more than double the industry standard for 20-year replacement, according to NFPA.
So that's the existing ladder truck, correct?
That's correct, sir.
I didn't hear anything, just a quick comment, what would we do with it?
Well, in the contract from Essex, when the town accepted the gift of the truck, it was in there that we could not sell it. We had to donate it to another fire department. So that we'd have to look at, obviously, down the road.
Fine.
Yep.
The other aspect with that, and that's addressed in the grant as well, and that might be something we have to readdress with the Essex Fire Company, or the town of Essex, and how it was obtained. One of the conditions within the Assistance to Firefighter Grant Vehicle Acquisition Program is that if we replace a vehicle with this grant, it can never be used for fire protection again. So it would actually have to go to a museum or something per the grant contract. It can't go to another fire company, unless as part of the agreement with that organization is that it would never be put in service.
They say you can't sell it or you can't donate it. Like, I can see where you wouldn't be able to sell it, but
The grant, FEMA or the
FEMA.
company we got it from?
the FEMA thing. So you're saying the
Doesn't care.
FEMA grant says that if you're replacing this, you're gonna buy a new truck, the one you're replacing cannot be used at all again, ever?
As a fire truck. It can be used, go ahead, Lou.
So, in the class that we took the other day, essentially there's 5 things that you can do with this outdated truck.
Right.
One of them is donate it overseas to another country, and what they do with it,
Right.
we'll only know. Farm equipment, in this case, I don't see much use of a ladder truck as a farm equipment, but if you did a pumper, it can go to a pumper. It could also go to a tree trimming company that could utilize it for trimming trees.
Okay.
As long as it's not being used as a fire truck or fire apparatus, that's like
And why do they care? Who knows?
Well, the care, honestly, and I'm not gonna speak 100% for FEMA and write this program, but the way I look at it is our justification for replacing the truck is that it's unsafe.
Right.
So if another fire department takes it
Yeah.
and says, oh, well, we can use this for the same thing they were using it for, then FEMA's gonna go, wait, time out. How come this fire department can use it, but you couldn't anymore?
Right.
One more question, okay.
One more question. This looks like a real good deal, and 5% match, 10% match. I saw in here that if you increase the percentage, the cost match, increases the chance of getting the grant. So what are the chances of us getting this grant? Any idea?
So, through speaking with the FEMA regional, what is he, the regional grant director?
Yeah, for Region 1, which is New England.
The gentleman that handles the Q&A of the grant process for FEMA. Speaking with him, traditionally speaking, replacing vehicles over 20 years, FEMA lists as high priority. Replacing vehicles with an open cab, FEMA lists as a high priority. Replacing vehicles with a seatbelt, FEMA lists as a high priority. The list goes on and on where this truck falls into FEMA's high priority funding category, to the point that when you take money out of the equation, he was approximating off the record us being somewhere in the like 70% range of being very highly likely to get this. Once you put the funding in, he said obviously the more or the less we're asking the government to give us, the more likely we would be. And that's where the mandatory grant match is the 5% and we're requesting the 10% is to just try to up our odds a little bit.
So that's interesting. Of course, my brain is thinking, what if we give up 15% or 20%? Would that pretty much guarantee we get the grant?
I wish it was that simple. I wish I had an on the record answer from FEMA saying that. I mean, if that was the case, if I knew that we could say, all right, well, the engine we're looking to replace in 4 years, we have X amount of money for. Well, can we just give them that much towards this one? You know, I'd say that if I knew that for a fact, but I don't know. I don't know a true answer to if we give X amount, it gives us 100% odds of getting the grant.
I had to ask. So is multiple towns going to get this grant, or just one town's going to get this grant?
They awarded, 300 vehicle acquisition grants last year?
I think it was closer to 200.
Okay.
And, you know, with 200 vehicle acquisitions that were awarded last year, the downside to that was only 13 went to New England states. The highest award last year was $1 million for a ladder truck. So that's good. One of the other things that I think we have on our side, the average age of any truck that was replaced last year was 40 years old. So we have a rig that's 42 years old. That again, you can't reiterate enough how unsafe this vehicle is. I think we have a very good chance in obtaining this grant. Again, a lot of it is going to be how we write it and so on and so forth. After we write it and get it submitted, it goes through a computer process where they just stick it into a machine, they make sure all the bubbles are filled in and so on and so forth, which we're pretty much already have a check sheet done on that, so when the grant does come out, we're kind of ahead of the game. So that's kind of like the second or third, the second step, doing an electronic check on it. After that, it goes to a peer review. So there's 100 and some odd firefighters from around the country that meet down at Emmitsburg, Maryland, thank you, sorry. Emmitsburg, Maryland, and at the National Fire Protection Agency, or actually not there, at the Academy. At the Academy, and they review it. They take a week or two to review everything. From there, they make their recommendations. It goes to, we were talking about the regional manager for our areas, or regional managers. They review it. They'll call us, any questions. After that, the awards go out. We were told, providing that there is no government shutdown like there was this past year, they're looking at awards between April and June. And they're going to make awards twice a week, Wednesdays and Fridays, starting Wednesdays.
So let me take some of what I'm hearing now and put it all in perspective. I think right now we just have to regroup ourselves. This is an attractive arrangement. From all of us, we all agree. We don't know that we're getting it. We have to figure out our capital course regardless of it. It doesn't sound as though this will actually occur in this budget year. It may, we might be blessed and that money comes through. So what we have to remind ourselves is all we're doing right now is giving permission for them to write this grant. Right. So let's move this forward, if I may, please. Would someone like to make a motion on the motion's written in the back of the book? It's on page 3. Someone like to make a motion to authorize the grant authorization for the FEMA Fire Apparatus Grant Program. And this match, I just want to amend what we had originally seen in the motion about looking at a 10% match. Would someone like to make that motion?
So moved.
Second.
I second Gelson.
Discussion. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion passes. Thank you. Okay.
Someone who needs the ladder truck at their house, go right ahead.
So Cindy, you'll make the adjustment for the 10% in that? Okay, before I move on, I also want to identify another new person. Goodbye, guys. Thank you very much for your time tonight.
Thank you.
When I was welcoming and congratulating everyone, I neglected to welcome another new selectman, Carlene Quinn, and thank you very much for joining us this evening. And I want to congratulate Denise. You ran this time, right? You just didn't have to go out and do anything. You just
Well, it's tight.
But thank you for your service. We're grateful to you. Okay.
And,
And Deb Dinette. Jeez. Sorry, Deb. Forgive me. Same thing. We popular people.
Again.
Thank you all. Thank you all for your service, and I'm very grateful. And Deb, thank you very much for coming back and continuing to be our reporter for us. We appreciate that. All right, moving forward, let's go to the approval of the minutes. You have copies of the minutes from the October 21st meeting. Were there any changes, additions, deletions, anything anyone wanted to add? Change, delete? You have a motion to accept them?
No, well, it was brought to my attention that we misnamed Mr. Loria on his last day and called him Mr. Laura. So we'll fix that.
Okay.
Oh, the first page.
Right there on the.
Yes.
fame doesn't last long.
Autocorrect.
Right?
Yeah, I know. I hate when you're doing it in the car, you're speaking to your phone, that's a whole other matter. Okay, any other changes, corrections, deletions? May I have a motion to accept the minutes?
So moved, Gelston.
Second, all in favor?
Aye.
Any discussion? We're past that, sorry, I'm really off my,
Did you second that?
process tonight, forgive me.
I didn't.
Okay, grants, we got Board of Finance notes. Let's move down now to correspondence. We don't have any general correspondence at this time. I'll move forward to Chairman's report. Tax collector is the first one on the list. Gratefully, our tax collector is here tonight. Are there any questions of our board? Tracy, do you have any questions? Nope. Just want to point out, we still have a very high collection rate, so keep up the good work. Todd, do you have any questions?
No, sir, not this time.
Nothing, thank you.
Harvey? No. Very good. Items that appeared in your packet this time is something new. Cindy, would you think just explaining the rule or the state statute that requires the Board of Ed to now submit to us this quarterly finance report?
Correct. The legislature passed law that indicates Board of Ed have to report to the town on a quarterly basis their expenditures. And the board is basically required to provide the Board of Finance with a report they provide their board for each quarter. So you will receive this on a quarterly basis.
So it gives us a bit of a heads up, and it's coincidental that it worked alongside the expense summary and the quarterlies that we're publishing for the town also. So it's just really nice that we're able to get that in. Thank you, Cindy, for providing that. It gives us an idea of what might be coming down the pike and what might be something of issue to us. Any questions from any of the members on the board on this?
Just one thing, and when you look at a Board of Ed budget report, one thing they have that you don't have in your reports is called encumbrances. So those are purchase orders. And what you're looking at for last year is last year's expenditures with the encumbrances at year end, and then what's encumbered this year. So for instance, the Board of Ed, we encumber wages. Anything we know is going to be spent is reflected as an encumbrance. So sometimes that throws people off. So that's money that is committed.
So if we were to look at this report, then the budget detail, I'm looking at total, the first major line, 157,142. That just suggests that they're over their budget by that much.
Yeah, under.
That
That's
number's a negative, okay.
Okay, yeah.
Got it.
So there was 3.6 million expended, but 16.6 encumbered at that point. Largely salaries, transportation, and benefits.
Tracy, please.
I'm just looking at the special ed tuition. Something happening?
That's up for the, so we can talk to the Board of Ed. I'm not gonna speak on superintendent's behalf.
Todd, any question? Tracy, is that it?
Yeah.
I have one question. I believe there are contracts under negotiation. When do the new salary numbers, percentages take effect?
Teacher's contract will take effect on July 1. The administrator's contract was negotiated, I believe, 2 years ago, and the contract for pretty much everyone else except for a handful of non-unions expires June 30th. So the teacher's contract is done. And then the UPSU union, which is secretaries, paraprofessionals, custodians, building maintenance, who am I missing? Nurses, everybody else, but the cafeteria is in that contract.
Okay,
Awesome.
thank you.
So they're negotiating teachers now, right?
Teachers are done.
Oh, they're done.
They had to be. Under state statute, there's a timeline. So they're done.
Okay, so what'd they end up with?
I'll let the superintendent know you're interested in that information, because I don't speak for the Board of Ed. But we'll be happy to get that for you.
Posted on the town's website, so you can see
Is
it's already
is the
there.
contract done? Okay.
All set, guys? Bruce?
No questions.
Good? Harvey?
No, okay.
Okay, good. So we've gotten through liaison assignments. This year, what we considered, and I wasn't trying to be presumptuous, expecting that I was going to be appointed on the chair role, but I wanted to at least give you guys a heads up on this. So I put together a preliminary list. I want you to look at this. I'm gonna pass these out, please. Pass one around here. Cindy, do you have a copy?
No, I don't.
Pass one to Cindy also.
Thank you, sir.
Good. So this year, in an attempt to excite us a little more and get us up and running with this, Cindy and I looked at these and we mixed them up a little bit.
Mix them up.
Changed things a little bit. Did everyone get one?
No, excuse me.
So you notice what I did here is Cindy put it all together for me. You look, everybody's name is listed by last name alphabetically, and we were just kind of looking through the different roles and assignments, and so just rather than continuing the same ones, we changed things a little bit. So take a look at the ones you have, and you'll notice the ones that are highlighted in blue have more than one person. So for instance, if you see under my name, I happen to have Village Revitalization, but Bruce, you're also on the Village Revitalization as a liaison. The idea being is some of these other areas where we felt there was some importance to try to get more people involved with those respective ones. In addition, Harvey, you can see your name is listed as Board of Education, while I'm also listed as Board of Education. These are very important boards, and we want to ensure that we have coverage on, and definitely the liaison, not to diminish the importance of any of the others as well.
And I'll add Joe's phone number. I missed that.
Thank you.
So if you would, please, do we vote on these now, or do we wait till we?
They're at your discretion, your appointment.
What I'd like to do is, I'd like to give you a chance to look these over during this, and then in the December meeting, we'll make a decision firmly if this is the case. I could admit my own lacking in this space. One of the things that we really ought to do is to try to, when you get assigned to this role, is to connect with those people that are in your area, just so they know who you are, what you want to do. So it's my goal that maybe even by mixing it up a little bit, it'll encourage us all to reach out to these people, introduce ourselves. When we go through the budget season, our bigger picture goal is to have the information that they're working on, or maybe find out the issues they're facing and kind of work with them before they bring it to the board and give them better chance of success in achieving their financial goals. So that's really the bigger picture of what's important here. So take a look at these. If you have any comments or would like to make recommendations for changes, it's not a big deal to swap out. It was just an idea to put these together, and we'll vote on, and we'll make them official over the next meeting. Any questions, anyone?
I'm just noticing on the board subcommittees, there's this kind of, it looks like we might have missed, what are, I forget. We've got policy, communication, there was long range, which is the financial.
But that got replaced by financial
Yeah.
needs.
What else? Do we have 4? Just 3.
3.
Any other questions?
No.
Anyone else? Okay, good. Let's move forward then. Now we'll go to our board subcommittee reports. Joe, for your benefit, a couple of years ago, we determined that there were a couple of areas of focus this board would like to pursue in order to help the town more and make us work a little bit better. One was, and it had been after a year when I think things were a little bit challenging, one was communication. So there was an active approach to say, what kind of things can we do here on this board to communicate what we're doing financially and how well we're doing financially to the public. And so we have a subcommittee that's responsible for that alone. Additionally, we came up with an idea of trying to, and back then it was all about increasing revenues, thinking that we weren't collecting enough revenue, and I think we're a little ambitious in that space. The best thing that happened on the revenue side was some of the things that our tax collector did in terms of being able to raise capital. However, we still pursued it, and a couple things were tweaked and worked well. We also started writing financial policies, and the financial policies have been very integral, and a lot of work has been going on there. And so each board meeting, we bring them forward, and at some point, we'll do a briefing with all of the new members to make sure you understand what policies are in effect. And in fact, we are at that point today where we should be reviewing those and probably get those on next month's agenda, just to have a review of all the financial policies. And then the last one is the financial needs roundtable. Just like the issue with the track about what kind of projects should go forward, we're trying to figure out what are the best things for us to do as a town. And a committee spent a lot of time trying to work through a process that gives everybody a fair shake and puts everything somewhat on the calendar. So with that said, I'm going to invite each of the committee members to speak right now. So communications, you guys had some good success this last quarter. You want to brief us on that, please?
Yes, the endowment article will be out this Thursday. If you recall, that was the one where we issued one last spring, and then we reissued it again. We're going to do it this week. It's going to include numbers for this year as well as last year, so people can see that the endowment benefit we get is a yearly thing, and it's fairly constant, and it's millions of dollars. A lot of people don't know that even now, so we thought it would help to get the word out by doing it again and updating it with the latest numbers. So that should come out in the East Haddam News this Thursday.
That's the goal.
Okay. And we also learned at this time that East Haddam News is going to charge us for that, a small amount, for printing of our articles. And it's a couple $100, something like that.
One of the issues, may I address that?
Go ahead.
One of the issues we faced was that East Haddam News would publish anything we sent to them, but they have the editorial ability to make changes. And we felt in other words, to make it format correctly or change things around, it could change and get a message that's not correct to our public. And we felt very concerned about the quality of the information. So the costs were not very great, and I just said, go ahead and look at that, and we'll just pay for the pieces so that they look better. The amount of
like an ad than a.
it was more
And we
like
came up with a standard header of communication
it's
from
a
the Board of
standard format,
Finance.
so it looks clean, it looks the same, and it won't be changed at all. We didn't want anyone changing our financial data that we released to the public.
That's a good point. And then the week after that will be our first publishing of the quarterly report that we put together. And it's nice and simple the better, but it gives people a good snapshot of the finances of the town, which they never had before on a regular basis, other than during budget season. So we look forward to the public's response from reading those two articles. And we're going to meet again this Wednesday. I haven't told you yet, Cindy, but if you can make it 7 o'clock this Wednesday, can't. Well, Bruce and I and Joe.
And Joe, we're inviting you to join us.
All right, fantastic.
Be a three-person meeting, great, as to what we're going to do next for our communication articles to come. So that's what we're doing. So things are moving forward and progressing and evolving.
Great.
In the communication world for the Board of Finance.
Sure.
Thank you.
Yes.
This question may be a day late and $1 short. As we collectively publish a quarterly summary of where we stand financially, I never thought to ask if things are askew in some way, is there plans for a narrative that would say, this looks way better than it should, but, or this looks way worse, but.
The
Are we
original,
publishing in arrears? In other words, we're publishing the quarter number, so we know now what's getting published for the last
right, and the
quarter.
header for this, when I send it to all of you, and Joe, I will forward you a copy, basically just discusses it, but I think that that's a excellent point, because so as we close out December 31st and publish the quarterly report, you may want to include a narrative for anything that's askew. So yeah, you certainly have the opportunity. The first quarter is pretty quiet, but as the year progresses, that will give you the opportunity to enhance that
And
communication.
we could even add that to the agenda, or maybe you could put that as a subcommittee agenda that you're gonna look at doing that.
That's right.
I'll do that. I also wanna remind you about the events magazine. We seem to maybe missed an opportunity there that they might do it without any cost, so we want.
There's no cost there. There's quite a lead time on it though, so we'll make sure we get it in the next issue.
18 quarter. All right, good. Anything else?
That's it.
Anything else? All right, good. Next one on the list is financial policies. Do you want to comment anything? Did we have the meeting when we did the presentation to the Financial Needs Roundtable? Have we spoken to that already?
Yes,
We did.
yes, I'll try to be brief. The policy that we have recently spent our time on is a capital projects policy. And Joe unfortunately hasn't seen it. I don't believe Rob has, but the rest of us have at least had the opportunity to read the policy and discuss it briefly. But the idea is, as we were trying to help Coach Ritzak and Coach Krasuski, is to filter up capital requests, have them reviewed by the Board of have them reviewed by the appropriate branch of our government, then go to the Financial Needs Roundtable and get, so to speak, scored or evaluated with a magic number comes out for this project's 326, this other project 326.1, and then that would be moved, those that get high enough up in that ranking, recommended to the Board of Selectmen, the Board of Ed, who would then move them forward to the budget process for inclusion in the current year's capital budget and updating of the 10-year capital plan. Now I'm gonna go out on a limb here. There will be some new members of the so-called Financial Needs Roundtable due to elections, I believe. And we have a couple of new folks here. So when it might, we did a dog and pony show with slides and the whole 9 yards a couple of 3 weeks ago for the Financial Needs Roundtable. It might be worthwhile inviting whomever here who would like to come and see it or see it again when we do that.
Our intent is to talk to the first selectman. I believe we're meeting on Friday morning, so we'll give him an update then. Anyone who wants to attend then is welcome to join. And then we have our committee meeting then, so we'll do it then. And then going forward that, I would like to do maybe a briefing for newly elected officials on some of the finance stuff to include that information.
Very good.
And we'll talk about a schedule that we can probably set up for anybody that's interested that wants to get a feel for it.
This may be an opportune time to point out that Coach Ritzak is my brother-in-law, and Coach Krasuski is married to my wife's niece. But that will not affect my judgment whatsoever.
Very good. Full disclosure, thank you. Okay, moving forward, Financial Needs Roundtable. Nothing to report other than what we said, and that some dates have been suggested, and this is moving forward. I did speak with the first selectman and asked him to consider appointing a permanent standing committee based on the guidance that you shared earlier at last meeting, Tracy, and it's under consideration. I think that's the direction that we're heading.
Right, I missed that meeting, I wasn't here.
No, you made the mention when we proposed it,
Oh,
that
right.
this is not a standing committee and that we talk about.
Oh, right,
that.
yeah.
And I did, when I talked to
Tracy,
him
I'll get you the
offsite, I
dates.
did bring that up.
Okay.
Okay, good, let's move on to finance
Chairman?
directors, yes, of course.
Excuse me, liaison reports, I'm not a liaison for the fire department or the police. or building department
I
anymore.
just jumped over liaison, but do you have any for us?
Yes, I do, yes, I do. I think this information is interesting, the Board of Finance. I met with the building inspector, and as you recall, the fees were lowered because they were inappropriately high, thought by the people in the town of East Haddam. So they were lowered just for new construction, like new homes, new buildings. And at this point, and they went into effect in October last month. So it's kind of too early to give real hard numbers. But if we had the same amount of new construction we had last year, the same number of permits and so forth, the building department estimates a $6,000 to $8,000 reduction in fee receipts. Not a big deal. And I also want to give you some few numbers here. I was kind of surprised at these. In this past July, they processed 117 permits. Most of those are improvement type permits, not new construction. In August, 51. In September, 57. In October, 91. They do a lot of business there. It's 316 permits over those 4 months. And of the 316 permits, only 4 were new construction. So again, it reinforces that the drop in fee schedule for new construction shouldn't be a big deal financially, which is what we thought. That's the answer we got way back a few months ago. Okay, I also met with the police department, and just to recall your memory, we approved the purchase of 2 new police cruisers because Ford was about to up the cost substantially for the next year. So we got 2 at this year's or last year's prices, and those cruisers will be arriving soon to the town of East Haddam in, I guess, the next few weeks. And I was going to tell you about the fire department, but they told you all about that already, in more detail than I can ever do. So that's my report. Thank you very much.
Very good report, thank you very much. I apologize for glazing over that. Were there any other liaison reports that I should not? I don't have any. Thank you.
Well,
okay, moving forward, finance director's report.
Actually, for selectmen's.
My eyesight's not good tonight because I left my glasses on. Everybody, please forgive me. First selectmen's report. Thank you very much.
Thank you. I have glasses. So I'm sure everyone's kind of curious where we're at as far as the status of the road repairs throughout town. Bonfoy, little road there comes down the hill, and it's opposite Champion House. That's being evaluated, and engineering work, if necessary, will be starting in the near future. See if what is going to be absolutely necessary there. It's temporarily, it's okay, but more work may be done.
Can we just get a sign that says not a through road? Like, don't go here if you're a bus or a truck?
Or if you're a big truck,
Yeah.
following GPS, yes. Hemlock Valley, this core boring will be done either this week or next week to assess, see if there was significant slippage there, which is what may have caused the fence, the guardrail to be bending away from the road and towards the brook. If that is indicated that there was significant slippage, then that information will be forwarded to engineering for studies. What's the engineering firm we've been using mostly?
WMC.
WMC, thank you. WMC will probably be the one doing the work. It's unclear right now. It seems to have stabilized, and it may have been just due to the excessive moisture during that flood event. Ackley Road, which is being almost completely reconstructed, should be completed in a couple of weeks. That's a gravel road that goes from Wickham over towards Consumers Union, the former drag strip, and now where they do the testing of the vehicles. Several other gravel roads still need lesser work, but not all of the same scope. East Shore Drive still needs some work done on it. They had hoped to do that earlier this year, but it has not happened, I think, to improve it. One of the issues there is that the roadway is literally only 15 feet wide, so it kind of limits some of the work that can be done initially. And Mitchell Road still needs more work. The big nut that's out there is Neptune. Obviously, everyone knows that's closed. We should have an engineering study done and the plans, and we're looking for WMC again doing the work, and we'll supervise the work with a completion date of sometime in June. That's the goal.
20?
Yes, it's coming June. So that's it on the major road work. Did I miss anything? I don't think so. So we had a Department of Public Works.
May I interrupt you?
Yes,
quickly on
absolutely.
that? So our goal, based on the way we wanted to finance the projects, was to try to get that all completed right away instead of delaying it. We thought it would be worse. So we're looking at 90%, other than Neptune Avenue, all the other projects completion no later than what? Do you have an estimate for us?
So lesser work, hopefully on Hemlock Valley. So that should be completed, we're hoping. If it gets into extensive engineering, then it will not be completed till sometime in 2020. Probably beyond this fiscal year, or it'll be in the next fiscal year. Bonfoy is a smaller job. Presumably, that should be completed this fiscal year. The work on the gravel roads should be completed this fiscal year. So,
So we're making the progress that we were hoping. We're not seeing any major obstacles.
right. So, and were you expecting some payments in the near future to kind of give us a clue what's going on?
Yes, FEMA has broken us out into 3 different projects: emergency work, all the dirt roads, and Neptune. And they're gonna reimburse us in those series. And I alluded to it last month. I've talked to bond counsel. We might wanna look, it's not a bond anticipation note because we wouldn't be looking to issue debt. But the treasurer and I have looked at cash flow, and we may wanna issue some short-term debt on some of these FEMA projects to really not compromise our cash flow. While it's really good, we like to keep it that way. So we'll keep you informed on that process. If the projects are spaced out, we're getting reimbursement, that'll be helpful. But because they're not gonna make progress payments on each individual project, and the dirt roads is by far the biggest nut, we may wanna just look at some short-term debt to shore up our cash flow. And we'll keep you informed on that.
Okay, good.
On the gravel roads, we've switched over to using a processed stone for many of them, which may not be as gravelly, as attractive as some people would like, but it seems to be holding up much better, and it's actually a little bit easier to maintain. So we're looking for that. We have an exceptional base, and we're spending maybe a little bit more money at this point, but that will save us money down the road. Okay. As far as employees, as you probably remember, one the Public Works employee resigned. We have a new Public Works employee has been hired. Excuse me. We'll be interviewing for a mechanic driver soon, as the mechanic retired also. Because of the delays, or because of the retirement, we've been hiring contractors to come to the Public Works garage and maintain some of the vehicles at a cost of, I believe, $90 an hour. So there's going to be additional expenses there, but we've also had to send several of the trucks out for repairs, make sure they're ready for snow removal. So our maintenance costs will be a little bit higher, there's no question. We're also in the course of interviewing for part-time firefighter EMT. Bruce will be helping me out tomorrow evening, as a matter of fact, with that. And of course, trees are still an issue, and they haven't gotten any better, and the issue continues to accelerate in many areas. I've asked Ms. Lunt, the Public Works Administrator, to make arrangements to meet with, see what mechanized equipment would cost, and see if some places we can use it. So you have an idea of what we're talking about for expenses, and I've also suggested that, or asked for her to give us a budget and costs for having a full-time crew in here, or at least one tree crew every day of the week, rather than just a couple days a week as we've been using. So the number of trees that are dying here, especially the ashes now, is having an impact. So we'll have some more information available to you. Selectwoman Govert was at a meeting where it was talked about with, I believe it was Northeast Utilities, and they said if right now if a Category 1 hurricane came here, and this is in this area, we could anticipate being without power up to a month, possibly 2 months. That's how significant the danger is with the number of trees dying in and around our power lines and roads. So, something to keep in mind when we're looking at the costs involved here. There's also legislation being proposed that would have a cost reduction for the towns, potentially much the same as they did for the crumbling foundations, but that's will be before the state legislature come next 2020. Excuse me, yeah, the state legislature. And there's also some discussion, and I've talked to Courtney, Congressman Courtney, regarding FEMA help on this, because it might be better to spend a little bit of money now, save money at the other end where we're having greater infrastructure repairs. So, as I related, so.
Great. Questions? Harvey?
No.
Joe?
Nothing right now, thank you.
Yes, thank you, I got questions. Okay, as far as the trees, so Eversource has weighed in on the potential damage here and danger. One of the issues we had, as you may recall, the Board of Finance took the step that other towns probably didn't take. We wanted to finance things up front early, to Bill's point, and get things done quickly. So, and one of the concerns that we had is priority. How do you prioritize what trees need to be cut? And Beth Lynn's not here tonight, but they had one approach, and now they adapt another approach to do intersections.
I'll give you some more information on that.
What does Eversource have to say about that?
As far as what they're addressing,
what trees got to get cut so we don't have 2 months out of power?
I am not sure, but I will be meeting with Pat Bendars, I believe, next week on that subject. And their liaison for East Haddam.
And how is Eversource, I mean, if it's at all possible, we would like to know how they're prioritizing all these state roads also, because is it the state responsibility? Are they getting involved, or is it a collaboration?
It looks like it's a collaboration.
And I feel like we
can't,
yeah. It's something that's just as important to the safety of our citizens, but we have no control.
Right. So I can't directly assess what's going on with DOT because I haven't been able to figure it out, and I haven't had a chance to reach out to anybody yet. As far as the town is concerned, are concentrating on places where people gather, so school bus stop areas, intersections. If we have an area where there's a lot of children or people or activity. So those are things that we're trying to concentrate on. Then we're going to basically infill, shall we say, between those areas and pick up other problems. We'll probably address some things like around some of the cemeteries out on Ackley Cemetery Road, where there's, I think, 12 very large oak trees right around the cemetery. And if they start falling on the stones, there'll be an additional cost there. So there's multiple facets we're looking at, but the primary one right now is caring about the impact on children and people and places where there's a gathering. So, and I told her what my plan is, and what I've asked her to do is put together a proposal or these plans so that we can get them out to the public, so that they, probably in a newspaper article, plus we use our social media access locations to let people know this is what our plans are. If any of these things impact you or anyone in your area, please let Beth know so that we can address them in as timely a manner as possible.
Thank you. This is probably ahead of Cindy's budget report, but we noticed in the last month's meeting that the spend rate was $9,000 a month for the tree removal, but we allocated up to $13,500 a month to get. Our intent was to get as much trees cut as fast as possible. So I see now it's been up to $13,500. Is that right? According to the printout I have. So do you know how many trees are being cut each week? You have any metric on that?
I do not. That is also one of the reasons I've asked to have get some estimates from mechanized equipment, see where they can work, because I know when they worked on the hop yard, they did 100 trees in one day. But that's removing them and chipping them and everything. because they're wheeled equipment and it's all done with a cab, one person, 3 guys would do. So, we can't use that everywhere because of the wires involved, so Eversource has to work on some of those, but I do notice that we have a fleet of S1 trucks sitting at the Gristmill parking lot right now. I'm not sure where they're working, quite honestly. They don't necessarily keep us informed where they're working, best I can determine. But it would be nice, and I'm gonna see if that's something that can be done in the future. So when you have that question, I can give you a better answer. But typically, it costs about $1,000 a tree, and depending on the size of the tree, they may only get 1 or 2 trees a day, or sometimes they might get 4 or 5. It really depends on the location, the obstacles they're working in and around, the height of the tree, etc.
Okay, I appreciate it. I had a few trees cut down in my place as well. So I just want to say, I said to the Board of Finance already, so it's not news to them. But the people in town are well aware of the danger of the situation. And they ask me, well, how's it going? How many trees they cut? So it's a nice metric that people like to hear.
It's not really relevant because it's, I know. You spend 4 hours on one tree, but I think the fact that we had a relatively small wind event,
yes,
2 Thursdays ago, and yet there's people in town that were without power for 3 days.
I was one of them in my road. Yeah, actually it was 2 days where I was, which is long enough. But another thing, I just want to make sure we allocated for a good, healthy spend rate. I just want to make sure we're getting our money's worth. That's why another reason I'm asking how many trees are cut.
Well, that's also why I'm asking to get some different estimates here, because we've only been having one crew in here for 1 or 2 days, and it's been varying whether we're using our public works staff to help or they are chipping. One of the approaches they were also using was leaving the bole of the tree in place for later removal when the town crew would have a chance to work with it and get it down on using our staff. But so they've looked at various variables. I'm not sure which are most effective. We're going to have to. I think we're going to have to step up the game, and so that's why I'm asking for estimates and appraisals. And we'll be getting back to you soon with some better ideas. And again, I'm meeting at 11:30 tomorrow with a distinctive tree, which can do a lot of the work, the heavy mechanized equipment, chip a 42-inch tree. And so Bruce, maybe you might want to come down to the office there and sit in if you'd like to see what's going on. So it's pretty amazing stuff they have, and they can work very rapidly.
I'll talk to you after the meeting about some new equipment that's cutting trees. It's absolutely amazing. Cutting the very tops of trees. But I don't want to take up all everybody's time. But did I hear anything about the transfer station in your report?
I did not bring that up. Would you like to hear something?
I would like to hear something, yes.
I have nothing to report of any significance. The gate is not in yet, but I've also met with Ms. Lunt. We're going to have more discussions on that soon.
Okay, thank you.
On that note, I'm glad you brought that up. I just happened to have spoken with our former First Selectman, Mark Walter, and I was asking him about what they're doing in his little town, whether they built a big structure or not. And there's a company, he sent me an email on it, and I'll share it with you if you like, that offers these special things that go over the bulky waste. They're like plastic covers, and they're like they're framed and everything, and the cost was like $3,000 each. And it literally pulls it up and goes over the top, protects water from entering. And it's not a tarp. And so these were designed specifically to have function. I'll email it to you and you can see what it looks like.
Because as Bill and I were discussing, one of the big issues, and most of you are aware, is that when our bulky waste goes up back, it's exposed to the weather. And a heavy rainstorm, after a lot of the stuff has been dumped, can double the weight of what's in a container. And it's just water we're shipping off to be disposed of, and so we're paying the freight for what came out of the sky. And if we can reduce that cost significantly, that would be worthwhile.
Very good, thank you. Tracy, anything?
I know that and it's probably not even your area, but so we lost the mechanic out of the public works.
Mm-hmm.
And then you've got contractors coming in. Was his only function mechanic?
That was his primary function, but also in winter storms and other times. He would
Okay.
not necessarily drive, but he'd be available to load trucks and things like that.
Because I'm just curious if you've looked into you know, the cost difference between a contractor for the mechanical stuff versus an employee.
So because they do have multi-functions, typically they are
Right.
more efficient to have
Yeah.
a person on hand. And typically, also in my experience and previous jobs I had, it actually does save money to have, and this is one of those cases where, contracting out is not necessarily a cost saver, so.
Okay.
And like I said, we'll be doing interviews within the next week, so we have 5, looks like pretty good applicants.
Okay.
Very good, thank you. Moving on now to Finance Director's report. However, before we begin, I would like to read something to you. I received an email on Friday. It says, "Good morning, Mr. DeChristofar. We are pleased to inform you that Cynthia Verchio has been selected to receive this year's Richard C. Lee Innovators Award from the Connecticut Conference of Municipalities." I just want to make that public here. It's for the good work that she's been doing on helping us with the investment policies and the capital improvement plan that we put into place. So let me offer my congratulations to you in public.
Congratulations.
And anybody that's interested in helping her receive this award, you're welcome to attend the CCM conference, and she'll be awarded there in front of all of our other finance directors and all the other elected officials in our state. So thank you. Good work.
Good, I didn't know if you knew about it, so I didn't say it.
With that, how you're going to deliver your stellar finance director's report?
Well, the CCM convention, I've heard from some of you, Todd and Bill are registered. If you'd like to go, Wednesday is the last day we can register you.
So now we have to go?
No, you don't have to go. But if you want to go, Wednesday is the deadline. So
Is that when you get the award?
No.
December 3rd, you get the award, right?
December 3rd at dinner,
Yeah.
correct?
What's for the dinner?
There's breakfast,
So they're
lunch,
doing
and
all
dinner.
three.
It's a long day.
Maybe I'll just go to dinner. I can just go to dinner.
You can go to just dinner if you'd like. I'll let you know. The annual report you usually get in November. We've been a little busy. You'll get it next month. And just a reminder, the BOE budget forum is at 7 o'clock on Thursday for anyone who's interested at the high school. So,
Is it the middle school? I thought it was the middle school.
Middle-
I thought it was the middle school cafeteria.
I'm sorry, it's Thursday. I'll verify the location. Why did I think it was the high school? Because that's where it's been
It's
held.
always been the high school.
Yeah, that's probably why, but I'll double check for you. You have the October year-to-date budget report. The cover sheet is a roll-up by programmatic area. We're at 33% of our budget year with 28% of our budget expended. Much of our budget is expended in the fourth quarter. And for revenue, we are again at 33% of the budget year, but at 48% of our revenue. When you go to this new lovely budget sheet that shows by month, my apologies, I didn't update from September to give you the October, so I'll update that and shoot it off to each of you, because we tend to give you the comparison from the prior year.
So we're using a new budgeting format for the new members and the people joining us. The idea of this is to say, okay, how are we doing year to date compared to the same period last year? But then we realize that we don't spend our money in a straight line. Sometimes money goes in different ebbs and flows. And so what Cindy did is extended that so that each month she puts the actual dollar numbers in there, and then she sums it up at the very far right. And once we get, what it'll ultimately happen is you'll get a total expended number and a year-to-date number that should be pretty close based on the numbers that we have.
Correct, and it'll give a little more information because, for example, transfers to reserves, or paying for the resident state trooper, all of that occurs in the fourth quarter. So just to start laying that out, because it looks like we're really not spending a lot of money, but come the fourth quarter, we pay a lot of bills. So expenses, the real concerns here, the first selectman has already alluded to, we're keeping an eye on expenditures for repairs and maintenance with the town garage in light of being down a mechanic.
Well, it should be offset on salaries a little bit. Not a lot.
No. Because when people leave, they get payout for vacation and stuff as well. So there's that. Revenues seem to be tracking well. I spoke last month about Town Aid Road. They're not issuing any bonding. A lot of towns will probably hear about that at the CCM convention, the concern that they haven't released that money. A lot of towns depend on that for snow removal and the like. We do not, but that is a concern. That's a budgeted item of $325,000, and normally we would have received our first installment by now, and we have not. Tax collection is going very well. We received our first ECS payment, education cost sharing, in the amount of $890,000. And everything else is moving along. And when Todd spoke to the building revenue, you can see the first 4 months of the year, we've collected $53,000 on a $135,000 budget. So there's definitely an uptick there. I've also provided you with a capital update. There's, we're 4 months into the year, so there's not anything really out of the ordinary or of a concern. The high school roof, as you all know, came in much lower than anticipated, and reserves were planned for that. When they close that out, I'll be submitting it to the state. Before we start earmarking those reserves for something else, I would caution to make sure we see what we get from the state and we ensure that we get our state reimbursement that we anticipated. We've fared well with it in the past, but I wouldn't encourage you to start looking for other uses until we're pretty confident about what we're going to get back from the state. And that will be being submitted, I would expect, by the beginning of next year for reimbursement. Is there any specific questions?
Would you take one and pass them around?
I have one specific question.
Okay.
It's this report.
Yeah.
I probably asked this before, but I forgot the answer, I'll be honest with you. To the left of the 2018-2019, general government, the actual was $2,451,000.
Yep.
And then the budget for 2019-2020 is a whopping $4,121,000, blah, blah, blah. What's
That's just shifting of shared services.
Yeah.
We used to do it as an interfund transfer.
It's in that.
It's in that number down
Yeah.
there.
So if you go down to the interfund transfers, they have the equal.
All right. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Do you want to go through the citizens guide?
Yes, and then the budget calendar. The tri-board is scheduled for December 9th in this room.
That's our regular meeting, right?
It's your regular meeting night. It would be prior to that. Initially, we had planned on putting the citizen guide in the East Haddam News Thanksgiving weekend and thought it might get a little lost. So we're going to do a press release and then enclose it in the following week so people don't miss it. This is a draft. It's pretty standard. If you have any recommendations or changes, if you shoot an email to me in the next couple of days. The real big change is the last page. Last year, we spelled out every meeting, and we had meeting cancellations due to weather and this and that. So what I wanted to do is to put some key dates here, and these aren't the actual QR codes at the bottom. Tech is going to set them up for me, but point people back to the websites.
These are or not?
These don't work right now.
Okay.
No, they're copied for doing the mill rate from the budget, so that's where it'll take you.
So this is a draft, just we're working through the
To
idea.
give you the idea. But instead of giving a gazillion dates that are constantly being moved and changed, we just want to keep pointing people to the website. So the one item to be discussed later is when you begin your Saturday budget meetings. But just to put out there, the tri-board, your budget forum you've implemented where you get to hear from people before your deliberations, the public hearing, the town budget meeting, and the budget referendum. And then to direct people to the website for the rest. It'll save a lot of work and hopefully eliminate the potential for additional errors in tracking all of that. So pages 2 and 3 are virtually unchanged. It just changed the colors. We do that every year. So I know Bill had some changes he'd like to make, and he and I just couldn't connect today. So,
But go through the first page, that was the area I was making some changes. If you see anything that you see fit, feel free to send, send an email, please.
I'm gonna send it to the printer hopefully by like Thursday, Friday, the latest, because with the holiday next week, I wanna allow enough time for it to be printed and delivered for insertion.
Can I ask a question now?
Yes.
On page 4, is that appropriate time to ask a question? Page 4? Okay, we have Monday, December 9th is our tri-board meeting. And then we go to 3 months later, have our next meeting on the budget, March 7th. And then a month later, April 7th. And then 2 weeks later, April 21st, and then May 5th, soon after that. The question is, what happens between December 9th and March 7th that the public can attend?
So
There's a big gap
in
there.
the left column, it says, to the right are key budget dates. Please check the Town and Board of Education websites for the most up-to-date listing of budget workshops. I'll enlarge that and bold it so that it stands out.
Yeah.
And that's why we pointed people to the website and we would like to do a QR code as well, because.
Cindy, may I make another recommendation on that number?
Sure.
Perhaps to his point, those meetings occur between, the 9th and the 7th. Maybe put a line in there.
Yep.
Budget workshops, please see QR code below.
It's a good idea.
Okay, perfect.
That way they know that there's no gap there, there's something going on, it just reminds them that they need to
Actually,
see.
even
Yep, good idea.
don't put it here, draw the line all the way down, put the QR codes like this.
Okay. We'll move them around.
Yeah, make the upcoming events a little smaller.
Yeah, because
with the
it does,
codes.
it's a valid point, because that's where we do all our work and it's not
Right.
shown.
That's right. You got
That's
it.
where all the work happens.
Okay, very good.
I,
Anything else on the calendar, on the Citizens Guide? Want to go to the calendar, please?
basically where it impacts this board is at the bottom of page 1. Of the budget calendar. March 7th, if you wanted to have the budget forum and the first selectman and the superintendent and chairman of Board of Education would make their presentations. We did that last year. People had the opportunity to speak. What we could also slate on that meeting time is just a quick overview of the budget and maybe discuss what groups you want to come in and schedule them for workshops. Because you can't give people a day notice. So if we were to look at who you wanted to see and who you wanted to prioritize, we could request them to come in. You have 3 Saturdays potential to meet. The 4th is too late. I have to get everything to the printer. So you have the opportunity for March 7th, 14th, and 21st. And you probably should schedule at least 2 up to 4 evening meetings, and then if we don't need them, we don't need them, but at least they're on everyone's calendars. So what might be helpful to me, if you all could alert me, say by the end of the week, the dates you're available in March, Monday through Thursdays, and then I could, hopefully, we could have a common date that all 6 of you can make it, and that there's a meeting room available.
Would you, let's maybe look at it a little differently. How about notifying her the dates you cannot make it during those first 3 weeks of March? And then you propose some dates, and then we'll just, yay or nay. Look at it after she does that, please.
And is everyone good with scheduling the 3 Saturdays?
Are we good with the Saturdays?
Yeah.
Gotta find a new
Seems
place
like
to
we
get
have a
your
rhythm
lunch,
with that,
but,
and that's pretty good.
Oh my gosh.
yes. In this way, because once we have these, we can get them up on the website as soon as possible as well, and edit them as necessary.
I just pop in a tidbit, I am not available for the December 9th meeting.
Yep, I got it covered.
Thank you.
Can I make a comment? A lot of people have no idea what a QR code is.
Yeah.
I don't know how to explain what they could do or get an app for their phone or whatever, but
So would we maybe consider just putting also, the QR code, for those that know, it's great. For those that don't, maybe having also the actual web.
I have the web address under each one.
it is right on the QR.
But I'll see if I can work with Mark Niddle to come up with a a easy explanation.
But the point is, the information that the public needs is here. We took the QR codes off.
Right. It still can point to the website.
Yeah.
Right. Just trying to be a little techie.
And if
And
you're,
then what if we use the East Haddam News in conjunction with that? Would that kind of satisfy
Well,
that
they do
problem?
pick up on calendars, so we can work to maybe notice that.
yeah,
Tracy?
and I'm sorry, as far as the website, can we, I know it's probably a long address, but at least do partially, like /finance, Board of Finance, not just the actual website, you gotta give them
Yep.
more, because I've just spent 5 minutes trying to find the teacher contract and I can't find it.
Oh, I can walk you through it in a second.
Really, yeah, it's really easy once you know where it is.
Well, that's the thing, I also
Yeah,
did a
we can
search.
do that. We'll
Yeah, I had
put-
the same problem as Tracy has, to
Yeah.
tell you the truth. It's hard.
If everyone's good with that, the last thing is I gave you all the 18-19 audit this evening. We're not gonna review the audit. I'm very happy to report that there was no management letter this year. So a management letter is kind of like, I consider it a report card of things that we could be improving on. Really grateful for the staff, the finance staff, and then employees here at Town Hall who all did what they needed to do so that the auditors were pleased with our results. We did do, however, get a federal finding on our federal single audit, and I've listed it there for you. There's new federal procurement guidelines, and they've cited us on 2 of our bridge projects. The funny thing is we adhere to all of the state requirements, bidding requirements, contracts, and everything goes through them. And I don't want to say the state wasn't compliant, but we were found not to be compliant, doing everything the state requires us to do. We will be setting up a meeting with the state on some bridge programs to review it, and this will be one of our topics, because how can we not be compliant if we did everything you've required us to do, and you're the pass-through for these grants?
So we did everything that the state required, and the state gives it to the federal, and then the federal says we're not compliant.
The auditors tested for, there's new federal procurement guidelines that took effect last year.
So it sounds like the state guidelines were not up to date.
Shocking.
So, and we could see this in next year's audit, because by the time we can remedy it,
Right.
we've already taken steps. But all our bridge stuff, I mean, they dictate how we do everything. So, and the auditors have cited that we were compliant with the terms of our contracts with the state. I have scheduled Leslie Zoll to come in next month. She's our partner, audit partner. If you have any audit questions, if you could get them to me by December 1st so that we are prepared to answer any of your questions, I'd appreciate that. And then she can give a quick overview of the total audit. The audit went very smoothly, and I'm glad it's over.
Very good. Anything else, Cindy?
That's it.
Any other questions for Finance Director? Okay, very good. Moving forward, liaison reports. We're in the right spot. We covered that already. We're a little out. No, any other liaison reports? We had a good one from our.
Bless you.
Bless you. Old business, 2021 Board of Finance meeting calendar. Everybody had a chance to look this over. Any comments up front that might have been an issue? Most of them are the standard dates that we had. I already went in and plugged all mine in. Were there any issues with anyone?
You can vote on it next month if you like. You're covered. Just to give Joe the opportunity to ensure that it all works for him.
Thank you.
Okay, moving on to new business, auditor selection. Cindy, you want to talk about that a little for us, please?
The board had requested that we issue an RFP for audit services. We issued it on September 26th. We published a legal notice in the Hartford Current statewide, all zones. We put it on the town's website. I posted it through the listserv of the GFOA, which is the Connecticut Government Financial Officers Association, and I reached out to 4 major audit firms to solicit responses, and we received 2 responses. one from our current vendor, Bloom Shapiro, and one from RSM. I've attached here the key components of the audit and what we request and what the pricing structure is. And Bloom Shapiro, the other firm, RSM, and to their credit, they did submit a bid with very little notice. Their audit fee is actually less than Bloom Shapiro for the general audit. Where there is a noticeable difference is the state single audit. So I talk about state single and federal single. Those are audits required to test our state grants and our federal grants. So some years, if we are not doing, say, a bridge program or FEMA, we wouldn't get a federal audit. It depends on what our grant structure is. So Bloom Shapiro bid for next year's audit was $1,500 for the state single audit, and the other firm was $7,500. And Bloom Shapiro wanted $1,700 next year for the federal single audit, and RSM noted that we didn't need a federal audit because they were probably looking at last year when we didn't. So I just plugged in $7,700 to give a frame of reference. We also, there's been some interest in trying to do a CAFR and wanted to show those costs. So should we try to do that? And Bloom Shapiro would charge $2,000 for a CAFR. A CAFR is a comprehensive annual financial report. It takes our audit and builds much greater detail about the town in there. And again, Bloom Shapiro would be $2,000 for a CAFR, and RSM would be $6,000. So the cost for next year, estimated, Bloom Shapiro would be $45,000 and RSM would be $62,000.
Questions? I'll start with you, Tracy.
Do you need the CAFR every year, or do you
You would
do it?
You would do it every year, but the hardest part with doing a CAFR is the initial preparation and gathering of data, and then you're rolling in year after year, because you usually do a 10-year look back. So it's the initial gathering of all that data.
Okay.
But what it is because the auditors would have to then incorporate all our data, and the cost for them to print it and make sure there's other schedules they have to prepare as well.
Anything else, Tracy?
I have a couple questions. Just to make clear, so the 45,000 includes a CAFR?
Yes.
Wonderful.
Yes.
Wonderful. Yeah. So make sure. I thought a CAFR would be a lot more money. That tell you the truth.
Well, the other firm wanted $4,000 more dollars, so.
I was thinking another zero. That's what I heard from other people, but that's great.
Well,
It's good.
I think they wanted to keep our business, and we'll take it from there. So.
Okay. I'm all for.
So the recommendation is to remain with Bloom Shapiro, and I really had hoped to get more response, and reached out to the two firms that bid last time and received no response back. So.
Yeah, that's another question I had. Is how come only two firms bid for East Haddam?
There's really only a handful of firms that do this. And Bloom Shapiro is considered the #1 municipal firm. Out of the 169 towns, and we asked for towns of 10,000 and more, and we would fall, they do us and Haddam and other smaller towns. They have 55 of the towns of 10,000 or more. And the other firm had 13. So it's their expertise.
Very good.
So
this means if we take on Bloom Shapiro for 45 grand for this year, next year, and year after, that's a CAFR every year, or just?
They've quoted it. Whether it'll get done or not, that's what we want to strive for. Because there's work that's involved in my office. I have a staff member who has stepped up and is starting to assemble some of the data. I'm teaching them how to gather it, and that is a goal.
I think the bigger picture is that the goal that you requested in last year is on target, right? To have one that will be, whether it happens right away or within the next couple of years. So
Thank you very much. I appreciate it.
Certainly will request that you budget for it.
Yeah, thank you very much. I'm very pleased.
Good. Bruce?
Is Bloom Shapiro at an advantage because they're the incumbent? Is it less steps that they would have to take because they know us?
There is certainly, when you change an audit firm, it's a lot more work for the firm and it's a lot more work for us.
So that would reflect in the quoting.
Chances are, yes, because I mean, when you look at your audit, there's a lot of data and they would have the history, so that would make for other firms to
Guess
have
once your foot's in the door, you're,
right?
that's all I got.
Just curious how long they had been handling it?
A long time, since I've been here.
Sufficient for me, thank you.
I've been here 11 years, can you believe it? 11 years today.
Wow, good grade.
Really? And when Mark recruited me to
Right.
work part-time.
You should
Get
get
a
a
little
citation
part-time
for
gig,
that.
huh?
Okay, good. All right, good. So now what we need to do is someone has to make a motion to recommend that the Board of Selectmen schedule a town meeting to vote on a 3-year town auditor contract with Bloom Shapiro with the option to negotiate for an additional 2 years. Do I have someone that wants to
So
make that
moved.
motion? Someone that wants to second it?
Gilson seconds.
Discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. All right, moving on to the next item. We have a letter here from the East Haddam Public Schools. You want to go over this? It's a pretty simple process that
It's
we've done every year.
Standard every year, the audit is complete at the, where's the thing from the superintendent? Back in the summer, you received a letter saying at the end of the year that they had expended $19,542,000 and had encumbrances, purchase orders for about $494,000 with $3,000 unexpended. When all the purchase orders were closed, there was $968 remaining, so they're asking that $4,025.03 down to the penny be transferred to their reserve fund. And this would require your approval and the Board of Selectmen to call a town meeting for approval.
Any questions on this, Harvey? No. Joe?
No. No question.
No questions.
Lisa? Okay, would someone like to make a motion to approve a transfer in the amount of $4,025.03? Again, I should not be reading
No
this.
move.
From the general fund, number 10549010-58928, to the Board of Education Capital Reserve Fund, 3320-10506-25790, and to request that the Board of Selectmen schedule a town meeting for approval. Someone like to approve that motion, make that
So
motion.
moved.
Second it, anyone? Okay. Discussion. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Okay, so that takes care of that item. And now we're gonna work toward police special revenue fund transfer to reserves. You have the information there. Cindy, could you provide a little color on this, what is actually happening here?
So last year, the board implemented policy. We took police special duty, private duty, and grants out of the general fund in budgeting revenue for it and expenditures and moved it to a special revenue fund where all the revenues for those items were recorded and all the expenditures, with a goal that once the audit was complete, any remaining funds would be moved and we'd start a capital reserve fund for police items. So at the end of last year, when all the bills were paid and revenues were collected, they had $14,564 left to start their special revenue fund. So it's very similar to the Board of Ed with the money that's left at the end of the fiscal year. And that's a pretty healthy amount that we profited from the private duty.
Any questions on this? Tracy?
Nope.
Not this time. Nope.
No.
Once we have set up the, once we've got this, well, let me ask this, let me start again. Are we gonna do this, have the need to do this every year?
Yes.
That the balance would move over? Okay, thank you.
Very similar to what we just with the Board of Ed.
If you recall,
I just wanna make sure that we're all on the same page.
not to muddy the waters, but the Lakes Association would like you to consider the same thing, so it's in the same vein.
Would someone like to make a motion to approve a transfer in the amount of $14,564 from the Police Special Revenue Fund, number 4115000059790, to the Police Capital Reserve Fund, number 3320-10506-25550, and to request that the Board of Selectmen schedule a town meeting for approval.
So moved.
Second?
Second?
Discussion. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay. Motion passed 4-2. Okay, next item
One more.
is the, we have another grant authorization here.
And I need to update you on the form. The grant has already been submitted, and I had made a note of that you could not accept it once awarded. And they were asked to do a resubmit, and they resubmitted for around $14,000. They asked them to lower it. They shot for the stars and told to bring it down a little.
So they anticipated that they would get it, and they win, and then they said, well, guys, you're looking for
Yeah,
too much.
they did that last year too. They went a little higher, and they asked them to take it down. So the final number, once if it and when it's awarded, would come back to you and again to town meeting to accept.
And this is for DUI enforcement. There's no town match, and the grant request right now is $30,000.
Right.
Any questions, Tracy? Tom? No. Jill?
No.
Harvey? Okay. Would someone like to make a motion to approve a transfer in the amount of $14,564 from the Police Special Revenue Fund?
Whoop. You're behind times.
Oh, glasses.
One paragraph.
I have somebody read it for me. Would someone like to make a motion to authorize the grant application of the fiscal year 2020 comprehensive DUI enforcement program for resident trooper towns?
So moved.
Second,
Second.
discussion. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, great. We've already covered the fire FEMA apparatus, so we're moving on our agenda to the final phase of guest and audience comments. I open the floor to guest and audience comments. Mr. Dillon.
Just real quickly, I won't waste anybody's time. In the light of full disclosure, I'm not related to you.
Well, we gotta do the DNA.
Just one quick question. Does the board receive 5-year capital plans for Board of Ed and for the fire department and for public works and so forth?
10-year.
Okay, so it seemed like the fire truck tonight was a bit of a surprise. That should have been worked on last year. Doesn't come up, machinery does not come up on a year-to-year basis. I work with this every day. So it should come up every year. That's a piece of machinery. That being said, I'm a little disturbed to hear Mr. Ritzak talk about a project that was from 1989. Word of that, for a track. That disturbs me a little bit. It gets pushed, I understand capital items get pushed from year to year. Maybe we didn't have the money, but that's a long time to push. Take the can down the road, it's a big push. That said, last item. On the comment side, could I ask for a liaison to be from the Board of Finance to, I don't know, go along with the first selectman, the Director of Operations, and the Board of Ed. As you know, Consumer Reports gives $25,000 a year, okay, to the budget. I would like a representative to be there.
Yes.
If that's at all possible.
Absolutely.
To go, I mean, because it seems like there's a ton of worthy causes. I'd like to have a lot more ears on it.
Okay,
If at all possible.
great.
That's it.
Is there anyone here in the group that wants to step forward and do that?
So to be,
A liaison, just to be
To join the
another
group
set of
as
ears.
they
do
go
you have a
through.
meeting on
We do.
stuff?
We
or-
basically, April, May is our end of, May 31st is our end of year.
Okay,
So we usually write a check prior to that.
okay.
But normally, in years past, we've always been solicited, and apparently word went out not to solicit us directly. So the first selectman and so forth.
So you're looking for someone to be part of the evaluation process?
Correct.
In April, May.
We need, in April, May time period, yeah.
Okay.
Any volunteers at this point?
We'll see what April, May brings. How about
Okay.
that? You know,
We
let us
won't
know.
forget, we won't
Just
forget
a
that.
great-
We won't forget that.
Yeah.
Just a question. So this is a 2-month job each year, 2 months?
No,
No,
it's
it's-
a
One
day.
meeting.
One
It's a
meeting.
day, really, to go over any worthy causes that you've heard around town that really need to be financed, that maybe we can't do, townwide. So, in the past, actually, we just, we donated last year to do Ackley Road.
Mhm.
There was $25,000 put on that, so waiting to see that.
Interesting offer.
So, at this point in time.
Again, it's not any responsibility, it's just another set of years, maybe to give a suggestion and to be a great input on, you know, our decision making.
We won't make a determination this instant, we'll
Absolutely.
give you a chance to chew on it.
Mull on it.
Let me know if you're interested, and then we'll figure it out. How's that sound? Good. Is there anything else?
That's it, thank you.
Thank you for your time. Anyone else like to speak? Guests in audience comment? I'm grateful to see guests in the audience. Last 2 meetings we worked on TV. So thank you for being here, and I'd like to make a motion or ask for someone to make a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.